I came to in a world of pain and antiseptic. My identity a billionaire with a net worth starting in the 11-figure range, according to the script. I was supposed to fall head over heels for the teary-eyed girl at my bedside, then wage war on the entire world for her, from preschools to nursing homes. But as a career data analyst and part-time keyboard warrior, I had a strong suspicion her entire persona was a case of fraudulent data. The woman standing off to the side, the one with a glare that could flash freeze a volcano, she looked more like the kind of competent, no-nonsense project manager I trust to run a 9-figure launch of my tech firm. This was a problem. I had a feeling I was about to crash the whole damn story. I woke up to a splitting headache, a white ceiling, the scent of disinfectant, and the rhythmic beep of a nearby machine. It took me a few seconds to place it. I was in a hospital. More specifically, a ridiculously opulent private suite that looked more like a room at the Four Seasons. "Renzo, you're finally awake." The delicate voice pierced the quiet. I turned my head. A stunning woman sat by the bed, her eyes glistening. A single, perfect tear was tracing a path down her cheek with a kind of cinematic precision. I'm not exaggerating. The cadence of her teardrops was textbook, as if meticulously engineered. Not so fast as to look messy, not so slow as to seem fake. As I tried to process this, a flood of unfamiliar memories crashed into my consciousness. Wait, Renzo Rossi, the sole heir to Rossi Industries? Wasn't I just a senior data analyst pulling an all-nighter binge reading a trashy novel? One second I was doing that, the next. Oh, I got it. I'd been pulled into the book. And not just any book. I was now the male lead of the billionaire's delicate treasure, the very novel whose plot holes I'd been roasting moments before my transition. Worse, the woman doing the strategic crying routine was the novel's White Lotus heroine, Helena Petrova. It's all my fault. Elena is so sorry. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have gotten into that car accident. She sobbed, her voice catching with practiced perfection. The original plotline materialized in my head. The male lead saves the heroine from a speeding car, gets injured, falls for her instantly, and begins a life of obsessive devotion. I had to suppress a sneer. Other people get to live out fantasies when this happens. I get sent in to do quality assurance testing. 1 star, would not recommend. I fought back the urge to roast her and summon what I hoped was the gentle smile from the original character's memory banks. It's okay. I'm fine now, see? But Renzo, you did it to save me. Watching her masterful control over her ear ducts, I wondered if she'd taken advanced acting workshops, the kind with performance-based bonuses. What exactly happened? My memory's a little foggy, I said, probing for data. Elena immediately wiped her eyes, switching on her sweetened innocent act. Well, I was on that pedestrian mall downtown and I accidentally bumped into these scary-looking guys and they just wouldn't leave me alone. As she spoke, my brain was already running analytics on her testimony. Scary guys? A pedestrian mall? The timeline doesn't compute. My new memories indicated the accident happened in the financial district, and the original Renzo had no plans to be anywhere near a shopping area. When did you say this was? I cut in. It was the day before yesterday. Around 300 in the afternoon. Strange. My calendar says I was in a board meeting then. Oh, she froze for a microcell. Maybe I got the time wrong. I was just so scared. This girl's business acumen wouldn't get her past the summer internship at my old company. Can you describe these guys? What did they look like? They were wearing all black and they looked really mean. Her story was like a piece of buggy code held together with duct tape. It might run, but one look at the source and you'd see it was a disaster. My internal risk assessment protocol kicked in. This individual's drama queen to sincerity ratio is off the charts. P-value 0.1. Recommend flagging for high-risk monitoring. Just as Elena was struggling to invent more details, the suite door swung open. A woman in a sharp tailored suit strode in. Her presence was so commanding the ambient temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. Isadora Almeida. In the novel, she was the vicious Villainess. the heiress to the rival Almeida Enterprises. According to the script, she was supposed to show up, insult Helena, and I was supposed to furiously defend my damsel, cementing my love for her. Helena, still playing the victim, I see, Isadora said, her own dripping with contempt. Helena instantly toggled back to damsel in distress mode, turning to me with pleading eyes. Renzo. To my surprise, I saw that Isadora's tone, while hostile, was backed by a look of steely conviction, not petty jealousy. Interesting. This wasn't the one-dimensional shrew the book described. Ms. Almeida, if you have something to say, just say it. I just woke up. My head's not working right. I don't have the patience for games, I said calmly. The room fell silent. Isadora froze, looking me up and down as if she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Elena's expression was a picture of fleeting panic. I thought I was dealing with the evil rival, but it turns out she presents her arguments with more clarity and logic than the girl over here whose only input is a series of pathetic whimpers. Isadora raised an eyebrow, recalibrated her assessment of me. Mr. Rossi, I'm just here to inform you that there are some irregularities concerning your accident. She shot a pointed look at Elena, for instance. Security footage shows there were no scary guys anywhere near the scene. And, more curiously, Miss Petrova here called for an ambulance a full 7 minutes before you were even hit by the car. Elena's face went white. You're lying, how could I possibly? Her defense devolved into incoherent puttering. Her fingers twisted the hem of her dress, and a sheen of sweat appeared on her forehead. The truth, like quarterly earnings reports, can be delayed, but it always shows up, especially when someone else pulls the server logs for you. She's panicking. Note to self, advise the heroine to do some basic opposition research before attempting her next game. Thank you for the information, Ms. Almeida. I'll look into it, I said. My tone was neutral, but I pointedly refused to take Elena's side. Isadora seemed intrigued by my reaction. She gave me a complex, appraising look before she left. Elena scrambled to salvage the situation. Renzo, you don't believe her, do you? She's always had it out for me. Miss Petrova, I'd like to rest now, I said, cutting her off. The doctor said I need quiet. Watching her retreat with a look of bitter frustration, I leaned back against the pillows and started mapping out a strategy. The sweetened, innocent heroine of this world was playing a much more advanced game than the novel lead on. She wanted to act? Fine. I'll play along. But from now on, the rules of the game are mine. Welcome to Billionaire Romance 2.0, where user Renzo Rossi has just enabled the bullshit mode. The script. What script? In my world, there are only project requirements and iterative development plans, and my first sprint goal is to systematically dismantle someone's carefully constructed public image. I was finally discharged from the hospital. The doctor said my recovery was astonishingly fast, which he credited to my positive attitude. Yeah, the attitude of a man who'd essentially respond with cheat codes. The moment I stepped out of the hospital's main entrance, I saw Elena waiting. She was wearing a pale pink undershirt holding an elaborate lunchbox, a gentle, springtime smile fixed on her face. Renzo, I made you a special lunch. It's all your favorites. Her smile was so practiced it was unnerving, as if it had been ab-tested 1,000 times for maximum effect. Thanks, but my doctor has me on a bland diet for now. No spicy or heavy foods, I said calmly, declining. Internally, I was thinking, her special lunch? More like a subscription to my drama starter pack. No thank you. Oh, but I made it just for you. A flicker of something unnatural crossed her face before she course-corrected. That's okay. I'll make you something bland next time. Shinji, are the quarterly reports compiled? I asked, turning to my assistant who was waiting by the car, completely ignoring her attempt at a service upgrade. The best way to deal with the manipulators is to let them know their targeted audience has uninstalled the app. Elena was clearly not prepared for me to pivot so decisively. She stood frozen, the lunchbox in her hand suddenly looking awkward and out of place. "They're ready, Mr. Rossi. And Almeida Enterprises sent over a proposal for a potential partnership. They said it was for your eyes only." "Good. Let's head straight to the office." As the car pulled away, I glanced at the rear view mirror. Elena was still standing there, her sweet smile replaced by a dark, unreadable glower. 2 days later, the corporate grapevine delivered the news. Helena was already complaining to anyone who would listen that I'd changed, heavily implying Isadora Almeida was a manipulative witch who'd done it. Even better, she'd 6E her chief sycophant on the problem. Klaus Richter, that bastard Rossi. How could he treat Elena like that? That Isadora Almeida must have him under some kind of spell. Klaus's indignant voice blared from the audio file my assistant had forwarded me. His IQ was clearly not correlated with his trust fund, but that was fine. A pawn like that could be very useful. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into work. Under the original Renzo's Lovisic management, Rossi Industries had become stagnant and unfocused. Using my real-world experience in data modeling and business strategy, I quickly streamlined several key projects. "This new customer conversion model is revolutionary, Mr. Rossi," the head of marketing said, his face a mask of astonishment during a presentation. "We never thought of analyzing user behavior this way." I gave a modest smile. "It's just about seeing the data for what it is." The old billionaire was a pay-to-win player. I was a skill-based player, here to completely disrupt the meta. I ran into Isadora at a tech summit. She was standing in a corner nursing a glass of champagne, her sharp eyes scanning the room. She wore a deep blue parasuit that radiated competence. "Mr. Rossi, good to see you on your feet," she said, approaching me first. Her tone was still cool, but a degree warmer than it had been in the hospital. "Ms. Almeida, I hear you're developing a new medtech platform." She raised an eyebrow. "You've got good intel. The data doesn't lie, if you know where to look," I said with a small smile. For the next 10 minutes, we had a brief, brutally efficient exchange of ideas about our respective projects. Her business instincts were razor sharp, her analysis cutting straight to the core of every issue. No fluff, no wasted words. I have to say, I appreciate people who are serious about their work, I remarked as we were about to part ways, especially in this day and age. Too much performance, not enough substance. Isadora paused, then gave me a long, thoughtful look. "You're very different from your reputation, Mr. Rossi. A reputation is usually just a projection of what other people want to see." After we parted, my assistant Kenji leaned in. "Sir, the Woes Vance was looking at you." Was different. I just smiled. Talking business with Isadora felt like a chess match between grandmasters. Talking to Elena, that was like being forced to replay the tutorial level over and over again. As expected, it didn't take long for Klaus Richter to make his move. He started targeting Rossi Industries' newest medical tech venture. First, he spread rumors in investment circles that the project had critical design flaws. Then, he tried to poach 2 of our lead engineers. If Kenji hadn't gotten a heads up, the plan might have actually caused some damage. Mr. Richter, trying to headhunt my people? Personally, I'm flattered. I said to him over the phone, my voice casual. Rossi, He was clearly stunned that I'd called him out directly. Just a word of advice for next time. You might want to do your homework. For example, find out if the guy you're trying to poach happens to be my best friend since kindergarten. And maybe consult a lawyer about the definition of slander. Silence on the other end. The next day, I did 2 things. First, I issued a public statement refuting the rumors, complete with key data points from the project's successful beta tests. Second, I had my legal team send Klaus a very sternly worded cease and desist letter. This guy wanted to play corporate spy. With that skill set, I'd suggest he start by reading the Wikipedia pages for industrial espionage and plausible deniability. Klaus was caught completely flat-footed and humiliated in our social circles. More importantly, people started wondering who was really pulling the strings. Some of the sympathy that had been flowing towards Elena began to dry up. The best way to deal with an idiot accomplice is to give him a platform and a spotlight. With Klaus's plan in flames, Elena predictably changed her strategy. She began playing the part of the poor, jilted girlfriend at various social functions, cultivating a wave of sympathy. At the same time, she subtly leaked blurry photos and cryptic comments online hinting at an improper relationship between Isadora and me. Mr. Rossi has been getting very close to Almeida Enterprises lately. I heard Isadora Almeida was seen leaving his penthouse late at night, and these rumors reached my desk. I just laughed. Keep gathering evidence. Don't tip our hand, I told Kenji. The wise ignore rumors. No. The wise take screenshots and forward them to their lawyers. She thought this was some palace intrigue drama. Too bad for her I was holding the script to a revenge thriller. Complete with admin access. I deliberately stayed quiet, letting the narrative build. The more rope she gave herself, the harder the fall would be. At the peak of the media storm, Isadora showed up at my office unannounced. We need to talk, she said, direct as always. I invited her to sit and poured her a cup of tea. I assume you've seen what Elena has been up to, Isadora said, her eyes locked on mine. Including the slander against me. I'm aware. What's your plan? Wait for the right moment, then end it all at once, she nodded. I want in. Not for you, she clarified, but to counter the attacks on my own reputation. A joint venture then, I said, extending my hand. Her hand was softer than I'd expected, but her grip was firm. We spent the next half hour outlining a plan, timing it down to the minute. To my surprise, her strategic thinking mirrored my own. And in some areas, her ideas were even more thorough. As I walked her out, I couldn't help but think, working with smart people is so damn efficient. We're on the same wavelength without even trying. With some people, you have to scream to be heard, and they still don't get it. Back in my office, I looked out at the glittering city skyline and felt a smile spread across my face. So I'd forcibly uncoupled the story's main pairing and teamed up with the Villainess. I could live with that. The plot was getting much more interesting. The Villainess had a hell of a lot more going for her than the Heroine. Now it was time to prepare a very special surprise for Elena. I was starting to develop an begrudging admiration for Elena Petrova. Not for her personality, but for the sheer audacity of her ambition. Logically, a girl like her should have kept trying to win me back, but she had a much more efficient, high-risk, high-reward plan. According to my intel network, Elena was orchestrating a masterpiece of public humiliation to be unveiled at a charity gala in 3 days, in front of the city's elite and a pack of journalists. Mr. Rossi, we've intercepted some communications, Kenji said, placing a folder on my desk. She's paid off 3 reporters from the Financial Chronicle. They're planning to live stream your scandal at the gala. I opened the folder and raised an eyebrow. Klaus is really letting her lead him around by the nose. The Photoshop work on these intimate photos is worse than what our summer interns produce. The photos showed me in compromising positions with several unknown women outside a hotel. The angles were terrible. The lighting was inconsistent, a classic cut-and-paste job. There's also this, Kenji said, pointing to another page. They forged a report showing data fabrication in our new medical tech project. They plan to release it at the same time. I chuckled. Yes. The classic. I will ruin you, Gambit. A shame, really. Most villains die from monologuing and using unencrypted communication channels. Kenji, an operation this sloppy? In a TV show, you'd have to pay extra to see it. What's Elena's endgame? I asked, closing the folder and pouring myself a glass of water. The intel suggests that after Klaus makes his big reveal, she'll appear, playing the part of the innocent, heartbroken victim who is nevertheless willing to forgive you. A standard playbook. Stab someone in the back, then offer them a tissue and expect to be thanked for it. Get the tech team on standby. I need a professional crew ready to go, I said, tapping the desk. and give me a meeting with Ms. Almeida. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Isadora in a discreet tea house. She wore a simple cream-colored dress, which softened her corporate armor, giving her a more relaxed air. "You got the files?" she asked, getting straight to the point. "Received and analyzed. They're quite comprehensive." I confirmed. "How are things on your end?" She gave Klaus a sizable sum of money and promised him a piece of several Almeida Enterprises projects if he succeeded. Isadora said, a note of derision in her voice. "Guess how many of his closest confidants are actually on my payroll? 3? 5? Including his driver and his executive assistant," she said with a triumphant curl of her lip. "We've had copies of every piece of forged evidence from the moment he received them. We spent and are finalizing our counter-offensive, timing it down to the minute. In the age of big data, how do you plot a conspiracy without running a single risk assessment or user profile analysis?" I said, shaking my head. "She deserves to get hit with a targeted ad campaign of pure humiliation." Isadora laughed, her eyes glinting with the kind of light you only see in truly brilliant people. "She has her plan. I have my plan B, C, and D, and a tech team that can hijack the whole show at a moment's notice." Back at the office, I held a quick briefing with my tech crew. "I want the video switch to be seamless. The instant Klaus displays his fake evidence, our feed goes live on the same screen." "Understood, Mr. Rossi. We have multiple backdoors and contingency plans in place." I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes. "This time, we let her play the victim to the absolute bitter end. 3 days later, the cherry gala was in full swing. The grand ballroom glittered, packed with the city's most influential figures. I was dressed in a sharp tuxedo, moving through the crowd with a calm expression, exchanging pleasantries with business leaders and partners. Isadora was there too, turning heads in a black evening gown that highlighted her elegant but deadly aura. Our eyes met across the room, and we shared a silent, knowing nod. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Halfway through the dinner, Klaus Richter suddenly stood up and tapped his glass for attention. "Everyone, I have something important to reveal," he announced, his voice filled with a self-righteous fury. "It's about Renzo Rossi. He is not the man you think he is." A hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to him. I leaned back in my chair, took a slow sip of my wine, and smiled faintly. On the surface, Renzo Rossi is a successful entrepreneur, but in reality, his private life is disgusting, Klaus declared, waving a folder in the air. "Here is proof of his affairs with multiple women." He clicked a remote, and the 2 large screens flanking the stage lit up with the blurry, faked photos. "Furthermore, his company's flagship medical project is built on fraudulent data," he shouted, brandishing another stack of papers. "I have irrefutable proof." The room erupted in murmurs. Journalists scrambled, their flashes firing like a strobe light. Right on cue, Elena entered the ballroom. Her expression was a perfect mask of shock and heartbreak, her eyes brimming with tears. She was the very image of a woman wronged. Seeing his dramatic flair, you'd think he just won the lottery. Not that he was about to be socially and professionally executed in a public forum. I sat down my wine glass and stood up. "Are you finished, Klaus?" My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise, silencing the room once again. Klaus froze, clearly not expecting me to be so calm. You're not going to deny it. You wanted the spotlight. You wanted a stage," I smiled. "Fine. Let's give everyone an impromptu press conference on media literacy." I walked toward the stage, where Kenji met me and handed me a tablet. "First, regarding these so-called intimate photos," I said, tapping the screen. The images on the main displays instantly changed. "Here are the original, unedited source images, along with the forensic analysis of the Photoshop work. You can all be the judge." The screen now showed the laughably obvious digital alterations, along with screenshots of the TV shows and advertisements from which the original images had been lifted. As for the medical project's data, I tapped the tablet, and here is the real data. Certified by the FDA, along with independent audits from 3 separate third-party firms. The color was draining from Klaus's face, but I wasn't done. Now for the main event. I hit play on a video file. Elena's voice filled the ballroom, crisp and clear from a hidden microphone. You just do what I say. Once Renzo Rossi is ruined, I'll make sure you're taken care of. Take this evidence. You have to expose him at the gala, in front of everyone. If you do this right, I'll see to it that you get a piece of both the Almeida and Rossi empires. The room was dead silent. I turned to Klaus. Face hurting yet? Because I've got the raw audio files. Timestamps, IP addresses, call logs, a whole 9 yards. A full service takedown package. Guaranteed to prove you're more fake than the pictures you were holding. Klaus crumpled, falling to his knees with a thud. Mr. Rossi, I was tricked. It was Elena. Every head in the room swiveled to Elena. Her face was a frozen mask of horror, disbelief, incandescent rage. Elena didn't just manipulate Klaus, Isadora said, rising gracefully and striding to the stage. She's been playing this game for a very long time. Victoria presented her own files, systematically listing Elena's past deceptions, complete with evidence. How she'd faked her family background to infiltrate high society, how she'd orchestrated my car accident, and how she'd used slander to sabotage business rivals. The chain of evidence was airtight. The atmosphere in the room had shifted from shock to disgust and contempt. Let's all thank Miss Petrova for providing us with this masterclass on what happens when your personal brand crashes and burns, I concluded calmly. A cautionary tale for us all. Renzo, how dare you? Elena finally shrieked, her mask of gentility shattering completely. How dare I? I looked at her contorted face. Knowledge is power, especially when you're dealing with someone who has a Ph.D. in scheming, but a first-grade education in covering her tracks. The journalists were in a frenzy, documenting every second. The 3 reporters Elena had paid off were now trying to blend in with the wallpaper. As the gala wound down, a journalist asked me about my relationship with Isadora. Ms. Almeida and I glanced at the pathetic, broken figure of Elena being escorted out. We have a productive business partnership, and occasionally we collaborate on taking out the trash. Standing beside me, Isadora offered a slow, meaningful smile. Stepping outside, the night air was cool and clean. That was fun, Isadora said, turning to face me in the moonlight. Her eyes shone with a fierce intelligence. I smiled. We're just getting started. Yelena Petrova had taken a spectacular fall, but the world was full of manipulators. The script was dead. The real game was just beginning. The gala was the spark that lit a wildfire across the city's elite circles. With a little strategic nudging from Isadora and me, the media dug into Elena's past with ravenous glee. Mr. Rossi, you want to see this? Kenji said, handing me the latest issue of Business Insider. The cover was a photo of Elena's frozen panic face from the gala, with the headline, The Counterfeit Socialite, Deconstructing a Multi-million-dollar Hoax. I flipped through the article. It was a detailed, forensic analysis of her operations over the past 3 years, the fabricated family history, the series of carefully engineered chance encounters with wealthy men, the sob stories used to solicit sympathy, and even more evidence about her role in my car accident. The most ironic part, the pack of sycophants who had once orbited her were now the first to turn on her, lining up to give tell-all interviews. Klaus Richter was the most vocal, providing the press with a treasure trove of audio, recordings and chat logs detailing how Elena had directed him to sabotage her rivals. She told me to drug Isadora Almeida's coffee before a board meeting. He wept to a reporter. She said it was just a harmless sedative to make her look bad, but I had it tested later. It was a restricted dangerous substance. He put on a great show of being the heartbroken, betrayed puppy. The Petrova family scrambled, hiring a top-tier crisis bureau firm to try and salvage Elena's image. But against a mountain of irrefutable evidence, Their efforts were useless. Rossi Industries and Almeida Enterprises both issued public statements supporting a full investigation and released even more evidence. The Petrova PR campaign became a running joke. The internet never forgets. I remarked to Isadora as she sat across from me, casually sipping an iced tea. Especially when you piss off people who know how to use a search engine and build a database. Getting a sim to wise up is a miracle of modern science. They should start a support group. Isadora said with a cold smile, pushing her tablet toward me. Look at this, it was a news alert. As of the day before, Elena had been dropped by every luxury brand she'd ever been associated with. The endorsements, the exclusive invitations, the VIP statuses she had flaunted so proudly all vanished. Not only that, the assets she had acquired through deceit were being clawed back. 3 major jewelers, discovering her charity work was a sham, were suing her for reputational damages to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. A luxury car company publicly repossessed the limited edition sports car they had gifted her. Klaus didn't get off easy either. His family's company took a massive hit from the scandal, losing several key partnerships. His father, after reportedly breaking 2 of Klaus's ribs, exiled him to a remote international branch office to work his way up from the mailroom. His days as a carefree playboy were over. How many steps does it take to fall from the penthouse to the gutter? Isadora mused, looking at a paparazzi shot of a haggard Dilana leaving a courthouse. Answer: as long as it's a big enough leap off a cliff of your own making. I nodded. All the designer clothes and status symbols she chased just became price tags marking her failure. With the Elena Petrova saga finally put to bed, I was completely free from the novel's original plot. At Rossi Industries, I began a series of aggressive reforms. I injected the company with a new philosophy, built on the data-driven strategies from my past life. The old guard on the board of directors grumbled at first, but when the next quarterly report showed profits exceeding forecasts by over 30%, they shut up. Mr. Rossi, this user behavior analysis system is incredible, my CTO said, practically vibrating with excitement. We've identified and capitalized on consumer pain points in 8 separate niche markets. My employees all said I was like a different person. They had no idea how right they were. I used to be pushed around by the plot. Now I write the plot, I thought. Standing at the floor-to-ceiling window of my office, looking down at the thriving city below. At an industry award ceremony, I made a point to publicly thank Isadora. Ms. Almeida is one of the most brilliant business partners I have ever had the pleasure of working with. Without her support and counsel, I would not have navigated my recent challenges so successfully. The room erupted in applause. The cameras focused on the 2 of us, flashes popping. Afterward, a reporter asked if we were dating. I just smiled and said nothing. Isadora, however, answered with elegant precision. In this world, competence is the ultimate status symbol. We admire each other's minds. The rest is just noise. One weekend, after the dust had fully settled, I invited Isadora over for dinner. Not to a Michelin star restaurant, but to the terrace of my penthouse. The city lights twinkled below us like a galaxy of fallen stars. There's something I never told you, I said, handing her a glass of wine. I'm not the original Renzo Rossi. Isadora took the glass, not a flicker of surprise in her eyes. What do you mean? If I told you I was a soul from another world who ended up in his body, would you believe me? She took a sip, a slow smile spreading across her lips. And is that how you went from a lovesick puppy to a business prodigy overnight? You believe me? Does it matter? The man I know is the one sitting in front of me. In that moment, I felt a sense of relief and authenticity I hadn't realized I was missing. You know, in the world I came from, you and I were just characters in a novel. And you were the villain. Isadora laughed out loud. So what is this? A plot twist. You could say that. Except this time, we're the writers. As time went on, my relationship with Isadora deepened. There was no dramatic pursuit, no clutch confession. It was just a natural, gravitational pull between two adults who operated on the same frequency. We were working late one night, closing out a tough negotiation. Do you know why we work so well together? Isadora asked, rubbing her shoulder. I looked at her, her eyes still shocked despite the hour. Why? A good partnership is at 112. It's 0.50. 51. Where to incomplete halves for man even more powerful whole. I couldn't help but smile. It was a very logical, almost mathematical way to describe it. That's a very data-driven metaphor, Ms. Almeida. She playfully smacked my arm. Shut up. That's the most romantic thing I could come up with. One day she asked me, what were you like before you came here? I thought for a moment, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that the end-user experience determines the final score. She threw her head back and laughed. Are you seriously calling me an end-user? It's the tech mindset. I can't help it. The fake, glittering world that had once revolved around Elena Petrova had evaporated. The world felt cleaner now. Looking back, I went from a burned-out data analyst to a romance novel protagonist, and finally to the editor of my own story. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I hadn't crossed over. If I had been the original Renzo Rossi, I probably would have followed the script, becoming Elena's personal ATM and attack dog. Completely played for a fool. It just goes to show, I typed into my notes, that with a clear head, you can turn even the most ridiculous soap opera into a case study on risk management. Isadora wrapped her arms around me from behind. Life is just one big reality show. She murmured, you can look at the script, but the final cut is always up to the players. I held her hands, grounding myself in the reality we had built. In any world, it turned out authenticity and a clear-eyed view of reality were the most valuable assets you could have. Time flies. 3 years just like that. Isadora and I were now the undisputed power couple of the business world, partners in both our professional and personal lives. Today was the grand opening of Rossi Almeida A-Mate-C, our joint venture focused on AI-driven big data solutions. Congratulations. Renzo, I triumph. Isadora, the industry's heavy hitters were all here. Isadora and I stood on the stage, soaking in the goodwill. Thank you all for your support, I said with a smile. A-Mate-C is dedicated to a future where intelligent, data-driven decisions power every industry. Isadora took the microphone. We believe the future belongs to those who can find the signal in the noise. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, we were back in our shared office. I heard Elena Petrova opened a Bombay tea shop in some small town in the Midwest. Isadora said, handing me a coffee. She's trying to rebrand on social media as a humble entrepreneur starting over. I chuckled. From aspiring billionaire's wife to selling tapia pearls. That's a pretty brutal market correction. Her shop has terrible reviews. People say she scammed PS on ingredients and uses cheap powders. Isadora added, scrolling through her phone. A leopard can't change its spots, I guess. I shook my head. We're out here building an empire with the efficiency of a dual-core processor, and she's still trying to figure out life on a dial-up connection. Isadora laughed. The best revenge isn't crushing your enemies. It's living so well they can't even afford a ticket to watch your life. We clinked our coffee mugs, a toast to our new beginning. Sometimes I think about my old world, the one where I was just an analyst burning the midnight oil for a modest bonus. Now I commanded a corporate empire with a brilliant, formidable woman by my side. No going back. That was fine. I was still a data analyst after all. It's just that now the data was worth billions, and my primary user was a lot more interesting. Daydreaming again? Isadora's arms wrapped around my waist from behind. Running projections for our next quarter's investment portfolio, I said. Turning to look into her bright eyes. I built a model analyzing the risk-reward ratio of 10 potential acquisitions. She rolled her eyes. We're leaving for the Maldives tomorrow. Can you please turn off your analyst mode for 5 minutes? I've already prepared a complete travel itinerary optimized for scenic routes, restaurant ratings, and activity schedules, all cross-referenced with user reviews and weather data. You are unbelievable, she said, caught between exasperation and amusement. Life isn't a project management tap. I kissed her on the forehead. Life is a massive, long-term project. It requires constant iteration and optimization, and you and I are the co-founders. That weekend, while cleaning out the study, I found a locked drawer. I found it and opened it. Inside was a single, black leather-brown notebook. I opened it to the first page and froze. It was the original Renzo Rossi's diary. Sophia came by the office again today. She acts so warm, but her eyes are always darting around like she's hiding something. I'm starting to doubt her reasons for getting close to me. What was this? The original Renzo wasn't a fool. I flipped through the pages frantically. The diary revealed that the original me had been suspicious of Elena from early on and was even secretly investigating her. Followed Elena today. Saw her eating with a strange man. He looked familiar, but I can't place him. Ran a background check on Elena. It's full of holes. Her family history, her education, none of it checks out. My heart hammered in my chest. This changed everything. The writing on the last few pages was a desperate, messy scrawl. I've uncovered something terrible. There's someone behind Elena. Their target might be more than just my money. The Almeida family is part of their plan, too. I have to warn Isadora. I have to protect her. The diary ended there. The last page held a single, unfinished sentence. The one behind her must protect my... My palms were sweating. My mind was reeling. Isadora, I shouted. She rushed into the study. What's wrong? I handed her the diary. Read this. She scanned the pages, her expression hardening into one of intense focus. This means Elena wasn't just a gold digger. She's a pawn for a much larger organization, said, pacing the room. His car accident probably wasn't an accident. It was an assassination attempt. But why? Rossi Industries and Almeida Enterprises are valuable, but not valuable enough for that kind of risk. I cut her off, unless their goal isn't just our companies. We stared at each other, the same shocking realization dawning on us both. I thought I was rewriting a cheesy romance novel, I said with a grim laugh. Turns out it was the prologue to a corporate espionage thriller. My man Renzo, you could have left these breadcrumbs somewhere a little more obvious than a locked diary. Isadora took my hand, her grip firm. So we just cleared the tutorial and now the system is telling us the new DLC, Corporate Wasteland, is available for download. We both smiled, a shared dark humor passing between us. We need to reinvestigate Elena. Find out who she was really working for, I said. Isadora nodded. I'll get my people on it. Discreetly. It's fine, I said, trying to inject some levity into the room. We'll handle it. Worst case, I'll just have to write up a new project risk assessment. We spent the rest of the night poring over the new information, trying to connect the dots. As dawn broke, I closed the diary. Isadora and I looked at each other and smiled. It was a smile of grim determination, but underneath it was a foundation of unwavering trust. Whatever is coming, she said. We face it together. A sequel, huh? Life always has to throw in a few surprises. We're in this together. What's the next chapter? The billionaire and the CEO versus the Shadow Syndicate. Isadora leaned her head on my shoulder. The script is trying to get complicated again. It's okay. The audience is ready. We'll pay for the next installment. Outside, the sun was rising. Whatever lay ahead, we would face it as one. After all, this was our story now, and we were the ones writing it.